Open a map of the Bay of Naples and you will find a compact Roman town by the water. Herculaneum. The claim in our title, Best Preserved Roman City Ever Found, is not a slogan. It is a description supported by what you can still see with your own eyes. Walk its streets and you meet wood, cloth, rope, bread, furniture, food, paint, and even the imprint of baskets and doors, materials that almost never survive in ancient ruins. That is why Herculaneum ruins is more than a travel phrase. It is shorthand for a site that preserves the soft tissues of daily life. Begin with the way the city was buried. Unlike towns smothered mainly by falling pumice that caved in roofs and left open pockets for decay, Herculaneum was locked under dense, fast-moving flows that sealed buildings and starved organic matter of oxygen. The result was a carbonized archive. Wooden beams still lie across rooms. Hinges sit in place on charred doorposts. Stairs climb to upper stories that remain standing. For anyone interested in Roman architecture, the town reads like an instruction manual written in timber, plaster, and brick. You can trace Herculaneum wooden structures, lintels, beams, doors, stairs, where daily life still holds its shape. This preservation explains why comparisons of Pompeii and Herculaneum always return to the same point in ancient history. Pompeii excels at the big urban picture, forums, squares, traffic patterns, while Herculaneum excels at intimate detail. If you want the panorama of a Roman city, go wide in Pompeii. If you want to see how a household actually functioned, Herculaneum is where the evidence lives. That is the heart of why Herculaneum better preserved as a question. It is not about which site is more famous. It is about which one preserves fragile context. Step into a typical home and you can follow the choreography of daily life. A threshold leads to a corridor and into a compact kitchen, where a masonry hearth still holds metal pans with carbonized wooden handles. On shelves, storage jars and traces of spices sit beside fish bones from modest meals. The pantry keeps baskets that survive as blackened but recognizable weaves, proof of Roman storage habits. In nearby rooms, wooden beds sit within reach of personal objects, small boxes for jewelry and grooming kits, lamps, and a foldable stool. Because wood survives, the scale of rooms is clear. You can read where people sat, slept, and stored things without guessing. Bathrooms and heating systems reveal engineering. Beneath floors, you still see brick pillars of a hypocaust, sending warm air underfoot and through channels in the walls. Tiled rooms arranged from cool to hot guide the body through a planned routine that mixes hygiene, health, and social time. Water infrastructure is legible. Lead pipes stamped with names, basins that distribute flow, small fountains feeding courtyards. The plumbing and heating together show Roman architecture as a living system, not a set of ruins. Evidence also speaks from the streets. Thermopolia, counter-service food shops, line the sidewalks with deep-set jars or dolia sunk into stone counters. Residues on interior surfaces, together with bones and shells in nearby drains, tell us what was on the menu. Lime scattered around the counters hints at cleaning routines. The layout of these shops, with sliding shutters and simple display shelves, explains how a neighborhood ate, met, and moved through its day. When people say the city is frozen in time, this is what they mean. Service paused mid-shift, with the equipment still in place. Go toward the shoreline, and another layer of life appears. The waterfront district preserves storerooms, boathouse spaces, and equipment from a town that traded across the bay. Coils of rope survive as carbon prints. Planks from boats hold their shape. Amphorae for oil and wine stand in neat stacks, many still in the positions where they were set down. The seaborne economy is not an inference. It is visible in the objects themselves. That kind of directness is rare in Roman history and turns Herculaneum into a case study for how a small port supported a wider region. Inside larger houses, you find mosaics and wall paintings alongside libraries and writing tools. signs that reading and conversation belonged in private life for families with means. The city is not just commerce and kitchens, it also carries a quieter story of learning, taste, and Roman culture. Shelves, benches, and charred furniture fix the scale of rooms and help reconstruct how people sat, stored, and displayed possessions. Because so much wood survives, scholars can track joinery, hinge placement, and load-bearing logic, the sort of technical detail that usually rots away. Now let us address Herculaneum versus Pompeii preservation precisely. Both towns face the same volcanic eruption, including the Vesuvius eruption, but the sequence and style of deposition differed enough to change what survives. In Herculaneum, fast, superheated material packed voids and sealed spaces, turning wood and food into stable carbon forms. In Pompeii, many roofs collapsed under the fall of lighter, pumice-rich debris and later pulses. That made rooms more open to air and moisture over time. Neither pattern is better for every question. Herculaneum holds the detail of domestic life. Pompeii holds the map of public life. Used together, they form a fuller picture than either can give alone. Organic survival extends below the floors, too. Drains and cesspits trap seeds, nutshells, fish scales, insect fragments, and pollen. Tiny records that let archaeology reconstruct diet, seasonality, and storage practices with confidence. When we talk about Roman city organic preservation, these micro-archives are central. A basket imprint near a staircase tells you where supplies were kept. A cluster of grape pips and olive stones in a drain registers what was processed nearby. Even the sweepings of a workshop can confirm what kind of craft took place there. Craft and commerce appear everywhere. A carpenter's space holds offcuts and pegs. A metalworker's bench shows tools and a few rejected pieces. Dyeing vats carry stains where colorants soaked into the plaster. Each workspace is a snapshot of Roman artifacts in context, not a trophy piece behind glass. That context is the data. It shows how raw materials moved through the city and how labor was divided between home and shop. Put together, these rooms reveal a resilient local economy designed to feed itself and serve travelers. From architecture to objects, the same pattern repeats. Design serving daily needs. Small, high windows cool rooms while guarding privacy. Interior courtyards bring light and air to narrow footprints. Stairs stack functions vertically so a street front shop can run below family rooms, with storage tucked under landings and workspaces squeezed into corners. The logic of space is practical and legible. For students of Roman history and ancient history alike, Herculaneum reads like a living syllabus that teaches principles straight from the evidence. Color and finish add another layer of information. Painted friezes wrap reception rooms not as museum pieces, but as backdrops for conversation. Floor mosaics set with geometric borders define pathways through space. Because colors and patterns survive, we can test ideas about status and function, which rooms were for show, which were private, and how decoration guided movement. The same applies outside, where shop fronts and thresholds explain how the street read to a passerby, and how signage and layout created a rhythm of commerce. The city is also a benchmark for conservation. Techniques refined here. Careful consolidation of carbonized wood, micro-excavation of residue, and non-destructive imaging now shape how other ancient ruins are managed. The site's role within a UNESCO World Heritage landscape reflects that scientific value. It is not just a badge, it is a reminder that every intervention should protect data for the next set of questions we do not yet know to ask. The better we document Herculaneum, the more clearly we can read fragile evidence before it fades. So, is Herculaneum really the best preserved Roman city ever found? If best means the place where fragile organic parts of urban life remain in place and readable, the answer is yes, and the reasoning sits in the evidence we have walked through. Standing upper stories, intact wooden fittings, sealed drains with edible remains, workshops preserved mid-task, and waterfront facilities with their kits still arranged for use. It is a city that lets us think in verbs: cooking, storing, fastening, bathing, reading, rather than only nouns. Before we close, here is the practical takeaway for anyone doing a Vesuvius-buried cities comparison. Use Pompeii to think about movement at scale: traffic, crowds, processions, the choreography of public life. Use Herculaneum to think about how a Roman household worked, where heat moved, where goods were stashed, how tools and containers were arranged, why windows sat high, and how decoration mapped social space. That combined view is the responsible way to do archaeology, by letting each site answer the questions it is built to answer. If this calm, evidence-first tour helped you see Herculaneum as a living laboratory, frozen in time without the hype, stay with our channel. Next, we will build a side-by-side guide to Herculaneum versus Pompeii preservation, test the logic of Roman city organic preservation with real case studies, and follow the trail of Roman artifacts from workshop to table. Subscribe and keep going with us as we unroll a Roman city layer by layer and turn careful observation into insight you can trust.